But getting back to the electoral politics at hand, of course, New Hampshire this is pretty big because this is basically where Joe Biden can get eliminated from the race. It also has, I think, big implications for Bernie Sanders. If Bernie Sanders does not come in first, a solid first, I think it's going to be a problem for him. I think Elizabeth Warren has to come in third to stay viable. I think this is the last hurrah for Pete Buttigieg. And Amy Klobuchar, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I have no idea. I mean, when Sanders wins, but it's very likely that he wins, you're going to see a tremendous amount of poo-pooing his victory. I understand why people get upset about this, but understand that it's really, if you support Sanders, it's not necessarily a bad thing. There is a certain delusion that's going on with a certain segment of the party. And that is that they have been unable, and it gets worse almost every day, to coalesce around an anybody but Bernie candidate. And it appears that Michael Bloomberg has been soaking up all of the resources. He's literally meeting with big donors, not because he wants their money. He doesn't need it. He's a billion. He's like, how many billions of dollars he have? 65, something like that. He drops $1 billion on this campaign. I mean, like, I'm trying to figure out, like, what is 1/65th of, like, my net worth? And I feel like it's like, you know, it's somewhere around like me buying a new car or a couch is somewhere in there. Somewhere in between there is 1/65th of my net worth, maybe closer to a couch, and not a terribly expensive one. And for him, that's a $1 billion worth of a campaign. I don't know. I got to figure it out. Couch. Yeah, maybe a decent couch. And he is soaking up all of the campaign staff and all the resources. He's telling donors don't donate to Joe Biden. Soon, Pete Buttigieg will suffer the same fate, I think. But there's a real problem with Michael Bloomberg. And I've heard, you hear a lot of anecdotal stuff like, I like Bloomberg. Well, Mike Bloomberg has spent several $100 million in basically having just ads that extol his virtues and has dealt with really no criticism. He hasn't been on the debate stage. If you watch TV, if you're watching MSNBC in the morning, Steve Ratner literally manages his money, but then opines about what a great guy he is. I got news for you. If you want to give me the fees on managing your $65 billion, or even just like $2 or $3 billion, I'm probably going to have some positive things to say about you. Now, one of them will not be that you pick your money managers well, but aside from that. But here is why Mike Bloomberg, just exhibit A of literally, I don't know, 20, like you go, I think, I feel like you go to like at least like GGG as you go around the alphabet and present all these exhibits. But this is one indication of just like, we can point out there's multiple reasons why he will lose various sectors of our population, but various regions, right? Where he just will lose outright in a general election. One of it is that his policies in New York City were about as close to explicitly racist as you can get. And his justifications for them, even when he knows he's talking more or less in public, exhibit that. Let's go back to this. Here's Ben Dixon of the Ben Dixon Show has dug up and this is, we're talking 5 years ago. This is not 1955, some time when Bloomberg went to the Aspen Institute and expanded upon what he thought should happen with the Negro in the city, as it were. This is 2015. At the Aspen Institute, he gave a speech. Apparently, Bloomberg had the video blocked, but somebody audio taped it.
95% of your murderers and murder victims fit one MO. You can just take the description, Xerox it, and pass it out to all the cops. They are male, minorities, 15 to 25. That's true in New York, it's true in virtually every city in America. And that's where the real crime is. You've got to get the guns out of the hands of the people that get killed. So you want to spend the money, put a lot of cops in the street, put those cops where the crime is, which means in the minority neighborhoods. So it's one of the unintended consequences is people say, oh my God, you are arresting kids for marijuana that are all minorities. Yes, that's true. Why? Because we put all the cops in the minority neighborhoods. Yes, that's true. Why do we do it? Because that's where all the crime is. And the way you get the guns out of the kids' hands is to throw them up against the wall and frisk them. And then they say, oh, I don't want that. I don't want to get caught, so they don't bring the gun. They may still have a gun, but they leave it at home.
All right, let's just go through this. I mean, aside from the fact that his 95% figure is incorrect, the idea that because most murders happen within a specific demographic means that you have license to take every member of that demographic and criminalize them. And by criminalize, I mean make them subject to treatment that they would get as criminals. I mean, for instance, if we were to say 95% of white-collar crime involving finance is done by people on Wall Street.
Or Bloomberg terminal users.
And so therefore, what we got to do is randomly send people downtown. They go into, JP Morgan Chase. They go into Bank of America, Wells Fargo. They go into Goldman Sachs. They throw the guys down on the ground. They put their boot on the back of their backs as they shuffle through their computers to see what's going on in there. They take their phones and they check and they see what's on WhatsApp. They giving any insider? I mean, this is just absurd to criminalize an entire population. And incidentally, we've also shown that the absence of stop and frisk has in no way increased the crime. Because the bottom line is, it was probably just a coincidence. There were other factors because crime dropped everywhere, almost everywhere across the country and frankly, the world. A lot of people associate that with the lack of lead that we were spewing in the air with the leaded gasoline. Because neurological disorders are a huge indicator of potential crime or just antisocial behavior. But the idea that this guy is going to motivate the most important voters the Democratic base has. Are you kidding me? Here is Michael Bloomberg again. This was in 2013. Now, I can't remember. Was he an independent here or was he a Republican? I can't remember when he switched because he found it to be most helpful for him. But here he is in 2013 defending racial profiling. Here's a guy who does not look at other people as human beings. He's not capable. These are just numbers. I mean, this is like McNamara's level lack of of humanity here. It's just a sheer numbers game to him. The number of lives ruined, I can get my stats down.
They just keep saying, oh, it's a disproportionate percentage of a particular ethnic group. That may be, but it's not a disproportionate percentage of those who witnesses and victims describe as committing the murder. In that case, incidentally, I think we disproportionately stop whites too much and minorities too little.
We're talking about making, in this particular case, young black men feel like they cannot go out into society without being immediately suspicious, essentially. They cannot walk amongst the civilian population and feel like they aren't in some way a target. This is super effed up. Super effed up. And his stats, I think, are also wrong. I don't have them, but I think his stats are overblown. But that's not even the point. Even if his stats were correct, 95% of black people are not committing crimes. 95% of black men, black boys, 16 to whatever it was that he said, 25, are not committing crimes. But you're subjecting 100% of them to the type of scrutiny that you do a criminal. It really, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. It is sociopathic in its own right. There's just absolutely no sense that who he's talking about are human beings who have lives, who have mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers, and ultimately will have kids. Like, will go through their lives. It really is stunning. So F. Michael Bloomberg